And we are live. Hang on one moment, please, while I get myself organized. Okay. How is everybody? It's a bit chilly here in Queensland, Australia today. It's been raining. It's a real wintry sort of day. So now I have a lot of questions to get through. I can't see anybody on the live yet, so hopefully somebody will join us soon. Hello, if you're watching, I can see somebody's watching now. Who? Just say hello, just to let me know that you can hear me. Okay, please, if you don't mind. Um, right. I've got so many questions. It's not funny. So, but that's really good because it means, there's people that need help, and hopefully I'll be able to help. Um, I do want to mention something first, though, which is I don't know how many of you are aware. I have a kind of a do-it-yourself program, and that means I can keep the price point really, really low on it, or as low as I can possibly go. Hi, Chandra, thank you. Um, and it's $39 US a month, which is, I can't make it any cheaper than that. Oh, I shouldn't, it's not cheap. It's a good program. So there's plenty of support. Um, there's a private client Facebook group, and there's also some group classes where we talk through about what's going on with your dog specifically. And it's a open forum where I can ask you questions and you can reply, and it just makes me more able to help and respond to your questions than if I'm doing like a live like I am now. It's a lot harder for me to get all the details, especially if the question's been sent in prior and the person's not on the call. Often I need more answers than what is given in the question, sort of thing. So anyway, I think it's really well priced. $39 US a month is pretty good for what you get, and it's a program that gives you all the steps, so you don't have to worry whether you're doing it right anymore or not. Anyway, let's get on to the questions. We'll start with you, Chandra, because you're here. I'm pretty sure did you send through a question? Oh, perhaps you didn't. If you've got one, feel free to start writing, and then we can have a look at it. But the first question I wanted to talk about is Cheryl asked, what is the difference between generalized anxiety and separation anxiety? And I want to start there because I think it's a really relevant and good question. So, firstly, separation anxiety is a kind of a blanket term. Yeah, Chandra, no, I'm assuming you mean no, you don't have any questions. Separation anxiety is a kind of a blanket term. So it's just this term that everybody knows and mostly understands. The actual name of it should be either separation-related distress or separation-related behavior, because not every time or not every behavior that we see that the dog does is based on anxiety. So I just thought that's a good way just to give you some overview on what we're talking about. Separation anxiety is the word we use just because it's easier and most people have an idea of what that means. But sometimes it's not anxiety. It could be frustration, FOMO. For example, a teenage dog, maybe it's not getting its needs met. It's not that they're anxious per se. It's more that they're just frustrated and they're going to make their own fun. You're not there to stop them from making their own fun, and they're maybe bored or something, so they're going to make their own fun. So that would be more based in frustration. Sometimes it's fear of missing out. They know you've gone out the door and they're like, why didn't I come with you? So it's not always anxiety. So just to caveat that. Now, generalized anxiety for me anyway is a dog that steps out into the big wide world, and sometimes it's at home as well, and they're worried about everything. And I'm not talking about dog reactivity or, maybe some dogs are worried about humans, and that could be due to, for example, not, I'm just generalizing here, past trauma or something like that. A dog that's got generalized anxiety, often it's hardwired into them. So it can be a genetic thing. It could be an upbringing thing. So what socialization did they get, especially in that critical period when they're puppies and they need a wide range of experiences where they still feel safe. So we're not throwing them in the deep end. But a dog that steps out into the big wide world and just cannot cope, everything is scary, or, they're fearful about everything. Those dogs probably, may have generalized anxiety. So I've had a few people say, oh, yeah, I think my dog's got generalized anxiety because he's reactive to other dogs. That for me isn't generalized anxiety. I'm talking about you're walking down the street and a leaf or a twig falls out of a tree and your dog has a major freak out and cannot cope and can't recover. Everything is something to be worried about. That is generalized anxiety. Those dogs, so I'm not a person that says, I'm not a trainer that says all dogs should be on medication if they're suffering from some form of anxiety. I don't agree with that. However, dogs that have generalized anxiety, I would say it could be a kindness to give them medication, because they could potentially be living in fight flight constantly, and we know that's not good for them. That's like really bad for them. It causes chronic stress and it can lead to health issues down the track. So hopefully, Cheryl, that gives you a good understanding or a decent understanding of the difference between the two. But if your dog is only anxious when you leave them by themselves, that's not generalized anxiety. That is worried about being separated from you. Chandra says, we lost my other dog. Now our current dog barks all day while we are gone at work. We have a Furbo dog camera. We leave her puzzles to do while we are gone. Lick mats, toys with treats. She does not pace. She does not tear anything up. She just barks. Okay. Chandra, yeah, look, I'm not. Let me spit my words out. Sometimes that does happen when you've got two dogs, they're companions for each other. They were previously fine, and then one of them passes. And I'm very, very sorry that your other dog did pass. It's heartbreaking when that happens. I know. I mean, gosh, I've had a lot of dogs in my life, and it breaks my heart. So I'm really, really sorry, truly sorry. But sometimes we do see dogs that were previously fine when they had their companion dog, and then they can't cope when that dog dies. My question for you would be, are you 100% sure that your dog wasn't struggling when you had your other dog there? Did you have a camera on it to know what it did? So if you could answer that. Actually, before I respond to your question, if you could just let me know how your dog was prior, that would be, or if you've got that information, because obviously without the camera on, if you didn't have it prior, you may not know the answer to that question. So let me know, and I'm going to go on to another question, and then I'll circle back around to you. Okay. Holly has a 13-year-old Great Pyrenees mix. Ooh, nice big dog. 13 years old, so he's a senior. He barks anytime he's left alone for a moment or has to go into his kennel when we leave. He barks for hours when we need to leave. Only trazodone has helped, but we don't like to make him loopy. Yeah. He is food motivated and gets kongs in the kennel. He recently tore off a toenail, to his extra dew claw out of anxiety when we left. And had to get a toe amputated. Yikes. He is better in the kennel with a cone on, so we bought a comfy cone and still put it on him now that the toe is healed. Look, I'm going to generalize again because you're not here, Holly, so it's really hard for me to ask questions, etc., etc. But in general, most dogs do better with more space. Now, there are dogs that feel more comfortable when they're by themselves with the den-like environment of a kennel. And by kennel, I'm assuming you mean a crate, because I know in America the terminology is slightly different. In Australia, when we talk about a kennel, we mean like a dog run, like a big kind of, pretty big area, as opposed to a crate, which might be more, dog size. So I'm going to make the assumption that you're talking about crates. In general, most dogs do better with more space. So I guess I'm wondering, does he have to be kennelled while you're gone? That's not going to necessarily resolve the issue, but it would be interesting to have that information. Does he do better with more space? Because most dogs do. Again, I'm just generalizing. Now, I know you said you use food and things. You don't mention if he eats the food while you're gone, or if he's one of those dogs that leave it and then gobble it up when you come back. So food, I don't use food in training because it just complicates things. And most dogs, most of my clients say to me, oh, they won't eat it anyway. They're too stressed to eat. Because who eats when you're stressed? I know I don't. I can't eat when I'm stressed. And dogs are the same. So it's possible he doesn't even eat the food till you come back, or maybe he eats it. So some dogs will gobble it up and then they'll still stress out after that. So you're not really achieving anything. And if you need to go out for 4 hours or whatever, they're still gonna, you know, what are you gonna give them that's gonna last that long? So um yeah, I'd be curious to know, Holly, what happens if he's loose. He's 13 years old. And I know, look, I'm going to say that I know that most people don't want to leave their dog loose in the home because they're worried the dog is going to destroy something. As you say, but he doesn't, looks like he just barks for hours. So yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious to have an answer to that question. Terrible about his toenail. That's not great. Poor little boy, big boy. Also, have you had a vet check? Because he's 13. So, is this a recent thing, or has it sort of started to happen more and more often? In which case, we have to look at his age. Is there any cognitive decline, hearing loss, sight loss? Pain. Obviously, he's got pain with his, or had pain with his dew claw. Pain can play a big factor. Health issues can play a factor. Gastro issues, arthritis, allergies, all sorts of things can make it harder for your dog to be by themselves. And at 13, it's, you know, if it's a new thing, I would definitely be looking at a vet check. If it's been going on for years, I would be asking I'd like to know what training you have done around it, if any. How long has he left alone? So a few questions there, Holly, for me to answer you fully. It's a bit tricky. Yeah, more information would be great. I'm just going to come back here. Chandra says she was fine before. They would be sleeping when we came home. Oh, but when she was only dog, before getting our dog, we lost. She would bark then, according to our neighbours, right? But she was okay once we got the dog we lost. Yeah. So, Chandra, I don't know if you want another dog. We have tried CBD with no luck. We have resorted to trazodone. Today was the first day. I don't want to give her this med. Yeah, look, trazodone is a situational one. And I always say, you will have heard me say, if you've been following me for a while, there are no magic pills. Whether it's CBD, natural remedies, prescription medication, there are no magic pills. The thing that trazodone will do is knock the dog out if it's given enough time in advance before you leave, and if the dog doesn't fight it, because some dogs will fight it anyway. But any of those things, they support the training, they facilitate the training, but then there's no magic pills. So you can give them the meds and they'll be calmer while you're gone, but if you don't do the training, it's difficult. You kind of, if you as a human you are getting ongoing headaches, and yes, you can take a headache pill, and yes, it masks the pain, and you know, you get some relief for a while, which is probably what the trazodone is doing for your dog. However, if you're constantly getting headaches, sure, you can't just keep taking headache pills. You need to find out why you're constantly getting headaches. Are you drinking enough water? You know, is there a underlying health issue that needs addressing? So we can't just keep taking the Band-Aid approach. And while the trazodone is hopefully helping a little bit, it's not sustainable. How old is your dog, Chandra? Now, I would suggest, and I'm not saying you should do this, but if I would be curious to know if you got another dog, or if you minded another dog, somebody else's dog, how your dog would go, if they'd be okay. So I don't, yeah, look, if you don't want another dog, don't get another dog. Do the training. 14. Oh, she's a senior too. So again, as I said to Holly, maybe a health check wouldn't hurt, but it sounds like she just wants some company. And you're in a unique position because, oh, my dog's just farted. Oh gosh. You're in a unique position because I forgot what I was saying. It's just completely blown my mind. Oh my God. Um, Oh, I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. She does not like other dogs. Ah, okay. But you can introduce dogs in the right way. Um, like she likes your other dog. So if you were thinking about getting another dog, you could do foster to adopt. You could find a dog that she likes, do some training around that, maybe get an in-person trainer to make sure they get along. However, if you don't want another dog, I mean, she is a senior, make sure you get a health check just in case. But I would be exploring maybe as long as you wanted one, getting another dog. If you don't want one, then I would probably just do the training. She just had one. Okay, cool. Good health. Yep. You do not want another dog. Yep. Yep. Fair enough. And that's right. You know, you get to a point in your life where you say, maybe I need to go and do some traveling, or I need a bit more of a freedom in my life. It's wonderful having dogs in our lives, and they're fantastic companions, but oh, I know what I was going to say. I was going to say you were in a unique position having a dog, except that she doesn't like other dogs, so it's kind of not relevant. But some some dogs, even when they've got a companion dog, don't care. They want the human. So it sounds like she was okay to be with her companion dog, but now she's not, and she doesn't like other dogs. So I mean, look, you don't want another dog, so then I would commit to doing some training. The trazodone, it's not really great for their system as a long-term solution. I don't know how long you have to leave her. The other option is management. In other words, you find someone to look after her when you do have to go out. So I don't know if you work or whatever, but that would be, there's a range of options, family and friends, hiring a pet sitter. Doggy daycare doesn't sound like it would be great for her, although there are some home-based daycares that might be okay for her if the introductions are done correctly and all that sort of stuff, and the person running it knows what they're doing. You could get a pet sitter to come in. I think I said that, a dog walker, or, you know, reaching out to community groups and finding people that, you know, maybe seniors or students who can't have a dog in their lives because of, you know, their life circumstances, but they still want a connection with one, and perhaps that might be an option for you. Yeah, it's a tricky one. Janet says, how to help with a 12-year-old dog, another senior, who barks whenever left, even if with other dogs. And like I said, Chandra, you were in a unique position because Janet's dog, even when there's other dogs, it's the human she wants. So Janet hasn't given me too much information. Poodles are working dogs. People forget that because they don't really look like working dogs. But ensure that A, get a health check. B, ensure that, so basically to rule out pain, cognitive decline. You know, you need to know what's going on with your dog's health so you can figure out if, you know, you need to support in that way. Again, Janet doesn't say how long this has been going on, so we don't know if it's a new thing or a sudden thing. Especially if you've got a senior and it's a new thing, definitely health check, get to the vets, find out what's going on. Because if they've been fine for, you know, 12 years and suddenly this is starting to happen, there's something else going on. Yeah, so how to help. Again, training. I don't know what training you've done. I don't know if she's got generalized anxiety. So it's a little bit tricky for me. Not enough information with that question. Makes it hard to answer, basically. Except all I can say is do some training. Yeah, even with the other dogs, yeah. Okay, let's have a look back here. Okay, Chandra says, we do have a dog walker. She stays 45 minutes. She's left for 8 hours a day, 3 days a week. Yeah. Do you have family and friends that can help? You know, is there somewhere she can go for 8 hours a day? Yeah. It isn't easy, Chandra. I mean, finding the answers, but it means probably for you just doing some training around leaving her. So that's great. Knowing what her threshold is, as in how long does it take for her to bark before or to react after you leave. So once you know your threshold, you start your training well under that threshold. So what I call like a safe zone. So the dog's in no danger of getting upset. And then we use gradual exposure to safe absences, and we gradually increase the time in such small increments that the dog doesn't notice. And we might go from 30 seconds to 30 minutes, but the little increases. It does take time. There's no magic fixes, unfortunately. It's like just doing the work, basically. So probably not what you want to hear. Okay, Julia says, I have adopted a dog since she was 3 months old, and she's now 3. So, okay, he is reactive, scared of noise. He is barking randomly at children, old people, and he is food driven. But I want to know how I can make him feel more comfortable. When I go out, I am almost feeling relaxed. Most of the time. I watched a bunch of videos related to anxiety, reactive, and tried to desensitize him to external factors. When we come home, I give him a Kong full of frozen food to calm his nervous system. I have learned that even when he is not with the leash, he is still enthusiastic about all the smells. I'm not sure what that sentence means. How can I keep the balance and make him feel comfortable and stop barking to overprotect us? That doesn't sound like separation related anxiety. It's not, as in, you don't mention what he does when you're not at home. And this group is specifically for dogs at home alone that can't cope. You did mention his reactivity. I would get an in-person trainer if you're still struggling with reactivity. There's plenty of online resources as well if you don't have the capacity to do an in-person trainer. Yeah, but you don't mention anything to do with being home alone, just that when you come home, you give him a Kong full of frozen food to calm his nervous system. So I'm not really sure what the question is, except that you're asking questions about reactivity, which is probably not this isn't really the right place to respond to that question, I'm afraid. So I'll get on to the next one. Jackie says, I have a 5-year-old Bichon boy, ex-stud dog, had him for 18 months. She works from home, so I'm with him all the time. He is very attached to me, not so much my husband. That's no doubt because you are the primary caregiver. It's usually the primary caregiver they get more attached to. Hubby goes to work, perhaps, comes home, maybe throws the ball for 5 minutes, and that's about it, maybe some cuddles. So they are more interested in the person that they spend the most time with. It gives them the treats, the love, the dinner, maybe training and the walks and all that sort of stuff. So that makes a lot of sense. He follows me everywhere. I can go into the garden. He's okay on his own in the house if he knows I'm about. Again, that's very much the case with a lot of dogs. They know that you're there when you're out in the garden, when you go to get the post, when you go to take the rubbish out. They know you're there. It's not a true absence. If I try to go out, he gets anxious and tells me off when I come back in. I've managed 2 15-minute trips out in 18 months. Wow. He won't stay with my husband. He paces and cries. I take him with me even to the hairdressers. You're lucky to be able to do that. Need to get him used to being on his own. Advice welcome. Okay, so firstly with hubby. So wouldn't it be nice for you to be able to go out and he's fine with with your hubby at home? But he's not. So I don't know what kind of relationship he's got with your husband, but sounds like your boy is borderline hyper attached to you, if not definitely hyper attached to you, certainly on the way. So with hyper attachment, it means it's slightly different and it's a little bit of a harder fix than separation anxiety in the sense that Separation anxiety, the dog just doesn't want to be by themselves. As long as there's a person with them, sometimes a dog, but as long as there's somebody with them, they're okay. Hyperattachment means that they need that one person, which sounds like you, Jackie. It's not so much I need a person with me, it's that they need you and just you. So the fact that your husband is there and he's still pacing and crying sort of lends itself to be hyperattachment. In those cases, we usually try to get the dog to bond with more people. So that would look like hubby doing some more stuff with the dog. That could be training, it could be walking, it could be feeding, it could be treating, it could just be spending more time with him. But whatever that looks like to build the bond with your husband will at least help him be okay when you go out and leave him with him. So that's the one thing, firstly. We need to build that bond. So your dog is not fretting when you leave and can happily stay with your husband. Will your husband step up? That is the question. I know a lot of husbands are like, it's your dog, you sort it out. Not husbands, but partners. Depends on the relationship. But a lot of partners are like, it's your dog, you sort it out. I don't care. It's not my problem. Blah, blah, blah. Don't want anything to do with it. Your problem. Which won't be helpful for you. You need hubby to step up if you can. If not hubby, then somebody else he's got access to in his life that he can help bond. We need him to bond with more people, basically. And that way he'll be more likely to be settled when you leave. In terms of, yeah, I need to get him used to being on his own. So what you don't mention, you say you've managed 2 15-minute trips in 18 months. I'm assuming that was by himself, not with hubby. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I would probably be looking at doing some training about being, gradual desensitization to safe absences. I don't know what happened in those 2 15-minute things. And you don't mention what kind of, if anything, training you've done. But yeah, just it's a gradual desensitization. So let's say you went out for 15 minutes and he was still holding it together, so to speak, then 15 minutes is still too long. We want them completely relaxed. Now, for your boy, it could be 5 minutes, I don't know. But then we gradually increase the time. So you need to know what the threshold is, as I mentioned earlier, and then we start well under that threshold and gradually increase the time. But your first thing to do would be to get hubby more involved or somebody else more involved so he can bond with them and feel more at peace when you do have to go. Alrighty. Any questions? No. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, where's my questions gone there? Alison says, we have a 15-month-old cockapoo, which we rehomed at 11 months. We quickly realized, oh, this is a long one. Okay. I might skip that one and answer it next week. I want to answer Karen's one first, just only because it's such a long one. Okay, so Karen asks, has anyone sent their dog to board and train? Which is a very good question. And I'm assuming she means for separation anxiety. I'm not a big fan of board and trains in general, unless you know for a fact that they are safe places for dogs. I've heard way too many horror stories about dogs going to board and train and being basically traumatized and abused. And I'm just talking about training in general, not separation anxiety. So if you're sending your dog to board and train for maybe reactivity or something like that, do your research. Don't just go on online testimonials. I would actually want to go there, tour the facilities. If there's anything that is giving you some uneasiness, advocate for your dog, don't go there. Find something else, find another option. I would prefer to get an in-person trainer. So if look, there are some amazing board and trains, don't get me wrong, but I am very, very, you just do your research. But in regards to separation anxiety, it needs to be done in situ, the training. Dogs don't generalize well, so that means even, and I doubt this would, that a trainer can get the dog fine. Maybe they can get it okay to be left at the board and train facility. Now, there's two things at play. Dog doesn't have a relationship with the trainer, so maybe they don't actually care if they go so much, as opposed to the normal person, caregiver. So there's that. So they might actually look like they're doing really well anyway, despite the fact that the dog's just like, I don't know you, I don't care if you go. Or what could happen is the dog might do amazing, and then they come home and it's kind of situational. So whatever they learnt there isn't necessarily going to transfer back at home. And that's even with going on holidays with your dog. It's a new place. So your dog might be fine at home to be left, but then you go on holidays with your, at a new place, they may not cope very well. They may not be very comfortable in this new place if you then go and leave them. So as I said, dogs don't generalize well. So for separation anxiety, I wouldn't recommend a board and train at all. As I said, then they may learn something there. I doubt it, not for separation anxiety, but let's pretend they do. And they come home and then you've still got the same issues. And if they've been left at home, they may have a history of fear, a fear history that says, when you leave me alone in this place, not at the board and train facility, then I don't like it and I feel worried and anxious, etc., etc. So not my recommendation, sorry. Okay. We might wrap it up there, I think, and I might answer the rest of the questions next week because we've been on here for half an hour. So if anyone's got any questions they want to send through for next week, I will set all this up again. And hopefully, Chandra, that helped a little bit. I know it's hard when someone's saying, well, just do the training. But yeah, like I said, I've got that program, do it yourself, but with plenty of support. And I'll also put in the, I've got a book coming out in September or end of August for you if you're in America. And I'll just put the link in here if you want to join the book waiting list to get the updates first. So that's coming out then. So actually I'll put the, yeah, if you're interested in the program, I'll just go and grab the link for that too. Just so you can have a look at it. It may not be for you. I totally understand. I mean, the idea, unfortunately, is, and this is where it gets tricky with separation anxiety, is we don't want to leave the dog for longer than they can cope. Now, I think you mentioned you've got to leave them for 3 days a week. So I would personally be trying to find cover for the dog for those 3 days and then doing the training outside of that time. And therefore the dog isn't alone. It's not forever, it's just for a short, well, it's while you're building up the time so the dog's okay to be by themselves. But yeah, there's the links there if you want to have a look at either of them. But thank you for joining me. I shall answer the rest of the questions next week. It's just a little bit too many to get through. So, but I'm delighted that there's questions, and I really want to help everybody as much as I possibly can. So yeah, keep sending them through, and hopefully see some of you next week. Because if you can come to the live, I can ask you questions and get some more details and some more information, which enables me to give a more fully formed answer.